Yeah, I definitely just the way to go is I just have to turn my speakers off so I don't hear you.
Yeah, that was a lot more consistent this time.
Thanks, man. I've been really trying. I've been saying it to myself in the bathroom mirror. How are you, man?
Great. Do you have time for a message about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?
Wow, man. I am a member of your church and I am uncomfortable.
Hey, I told you I had an idea how to start this episode. I didn't say it was a good one.
No, have you watched any videos from Knowing Better, the
Uh-uh.
YouTube channel?
Nope.
That like gave me like a flashback to like his style of doing things. I would recommend that channel. You and I were having a private conversation about unbiased news,
Mm-hmm.
and he does a very good job of both making it obvious what his opinion is, but still taking a fully unbiased approach and giving all sides to historical stuff, albeit, but stuff nonetheless. So enjoyed a
Knowing
lot.
better.
Knowing better. Yep. Brian, I guess that I do have time.
Good. Because that's what we be talking about today. But not
Just to be clear,
just, yeah, not
we're not
just from
proselyting.
our, no. Not just from our own perspective. I don't know. I mean, it is from our perspective. Not just our beliefs, though. We're not just talking about our beliefs. So, yes, we're not proselyting. There's a difference between religious studies and theology. While both Jordan and I could be considered theologians of our church, this episode will hopefully lean a little more towards the religious studies side, where we seek understanding, not faith. Does that make sense? I guess I could
Yeah,
define
sorry, I'm
both of those
just.
terms. So theology is
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. You said theologians, and I've been looking. I didn't hear the rest of what you said because I've been looking up what that word means.
so theology is the study of a religious practice from within, so to speak. A member of a church or denomination will study their own church academically, and that's theology. Religious
Okay.
studies is from outside of the organization. So
Got
you and
it.
I belong to the same church. So if we studied Jewish traditions, that would be a religious studies endeavor.
But if we were looking at our own church in a logical standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
that would be practicing theologicism.
Close. Yep.
Yep.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
It's a great show.
Yes.
Back when I had Netflix, we watched that a lot.
So what is our faith?
There's a song about it.
Okay. I think
You
there's
know
a
this
couple.
song. You know this song. I belong to
Do
the
I?
Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's so hard for me to say that without singing it, because we sing
I
it so much in primary.
I think I have no memory. I cannot form it in the way of the song.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's weird
There's
to
a
me.
lot. There was a time like I was really commended for large portions of my life for my memory. And I don't know what happened about 4 years ago, but that no longer happens.
Shoot.
Yes. I think everything before I think every I don't remember many things.
Just so everybody, all the listeners are clear, he's drinking out of a red Solo cup right now. So maybe
As
that
I'm
has
saying
something to do
this,
with
yes.
it.
I do remember how to sing Red Solo Cup though. That's a great song.
I don't know that song.
It's a great song.
Mm,
Will you entertain me with like how the little vocals would go
I
for
will not.
Okay, well,
Just look it up. It's on
all right.
YouTube. I'm sure of it.
I'm sure. I'm sure there's a couple parodies of it as well.
Probably. Yeah, so you guys, I'm sure everybody who's listening has heard of the Mormons. Mormon was a great guy, but that's never been the name of our church. I've actually had that conversation a lot recently.
Yeah.
Just like, I can think of like 3 times in the last week. Strange. It just keeps coming up. I don't know, man. But yeah, if you're thinking about the Mormons, you're thinking of the right church. That's just not the name of the church that we belong to.
Yes. Mormons, LDS, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Mm-hmm.
I think in news these days, the second reference I think, is allowed to say the Restored Church of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So there you
Yeah.
go. Bunch of different names.
Yeah. Yeah. Just, and it's, I struggle with that. I wish we could just say Mormon still, but they've asked us to get away from that name because I guess it's associated with cultism for some reason. Something about lizard people from the moon, and I don't know.
I think I'm just lazy, and I just have a hard time I'm a lot of times if I'm saying the full name of the church, I'm tripling the length of my sentence.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm just a lazy guy.
Yeah. That's me too.
But that is our organized religion.
Yep, that's our background. Both of us grew up in that church, so it's a fairly big part of our childhood and our rearing.
I remember and this might, be significant later on, but I was in the car, my mom was taking us somewhere. Our ward in our church, our local congregation of people, the boundaries of the neighborhood had just changed. And in my 8-year-old brain, I asked my buddy who lives on the other side of town and is not a member of the church, I'm like, hey, how do you feel about these boundary changes?
Nice.
Because you grow up and most of the social stuff was around other members of the church.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like looked at me, he's like, bro, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. And then my mom had to explain to me that, for one thing, not the entire world doesn't go to our single congregation, so even members wouldn't really care. But
yeah,
just one of those childlike lessons.
But anyway, enough about our church. Let's get a little, maybe not blasphemous, but let's get a little sketchy, shall we? Let's go off the deep end a little bit.
Yeah, let's.
So, Jordan.
Yep.
This is a trick question, and I think you're going to catch the trick, but can you define God?
Well, no.
Good answer. Give it a shot, anyway.
Well, the churchy answer, by the way, I'm foretelling that for both of us, we might get some phone calls after this episode releases.
I look forward to it.
The churchy answer from our church would be, I don't know, like if I get this one wrong, then perfect entity made of flesh and blood and bone. Yeah.
Perfect entity
And
made of flesh and bone.
yeah, all knowing, omnipotent.
Mm-hmm.
All of those words.
All the omnis.
All the omnis. Yep.
Yeah. What about
Omniscience.
omnipresent?
Yep. I would say omnipresent would be included in our church's definition.
Mm-hmm. See, that one was weird to me. I didn't hear that one until like 2 years ago. That
Yeah.
God is everywhere. I had never heard that
Yeah.
from like a Christian perspective. That seems way more Eastern, like Buddhist to me.
Well, and I think in our church, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is like God is everywhere in the aspect that the Holy Ghost is of the same mind as God, and the Holy Ghost is everywhere.
Okay, so who's the Holy Ghost?
The Holy Ghost, the churchy answer is that the Holy Ghost is a separate entity, not a flesh and blood and bone. I can't remember. I know the flesh. I can't remember what the other word is used.
It's bone.
But it's okay, flesh and bone.
Mm-hmm. Blood's what makes us mortal. It's what kills us.
Okay, that's sad. Separate entity of the same mind, like I said, of God.
So like a hive mind?
Yes. Not.
Really?
I mean.
So like one
try
brain,
not to think.
two people?
No. Well, I don't like to think about it in the way of like, as if I were, the Destiny 2 version of a hive mind. But
yeah, let's not do that.
in the way that like to our mortal brains, that's what it would seem like. I think in reality it's just like they are in agreement and they have the same goals and the same intentions.
Gotcha.
but their harmony is just at a level that
Okay.
we don't really achieve
Yeah.
here on Earth.
Right. Right. So, okay. That I think that clears it up. So two separate, distinct minds that are in such harmony as to appear singular to us mere mortals.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And there are many, this is immediately where we've already gone down like one very specific avenue where there have been hundreds of branches that are different religious beliefs on the matter. There are obviously different, like God is a different entity than what we think of it as for different folks. You mentioned like Buddha. Even some like is it still a Christian belief if the belief is that there are like the Holy Trinity is all one being?
Yeah.
Or is that something different? That's still Christian?
Yeah. That's laid out in the Nicene Creed,
Okay.
which is one of the most baffling and convoluted texts that I've ever read. It's, I mean, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to measure infinity, basically.
Yeah.
In the English language, or in Latin, or whatever it was written in. I don't know. I don't actually know what language it was written in originally. So, I mean, I get why it's so confusing, but, I mean, I feel like they could have tried a little harder to make it less aneurysm-inducing to read.
Yep. And what is it called? The Nicene Creed?
Yeah, the Nicene Creed. In one of the medieval, pre-medieval, like, conferences of all of the Christians in all of Europe got together from all the different sects and denominations. They got together and they were tired of their followers arguing over which teaching was right, because there was so much contradiction between all the different preachers and priests and pastors and whatever.
This isn't when they like went and selected which like texts would be in the Bible, would they?
It's yeah, around the same time, yeah. So there were a number of, I think there was I can't remember. I think there was 2, maybe 3 like big like conferences where everybody got together. They decided which teachings were right, what would be in the Bible. One of them took place in Nicaea, and the big takeaway from that get together was the Nicene Creed, where they defined the canon Christian belief of God, and it's essentially that God is everywhere and nowhere, and God the Father is Jesus Christ, and also the Holy Spirit, all at the same time, and none at the same time. And I cannot understand it at all. I don't even attempt that. I don't even bring that in to my own personal beliefs. It's just too much. It's too much for me.
Yeah, the first time somebody talked to me about, I think it was Lynn Clark, great woman, was the first to mention to me that basically that there was a meeting and there were a bunch of other texts and they just chose which texts would be in the Bible.
Yep.
I was like, interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's a little sketch, right? But I mean, you got to think that the majority of the people there they were doing their best, right? And
yeah,
there was a bunch of people there trying to align all of their beliefs, and that's really hard to do, turns out. Yeah. So we have the Bible, and it's the best that we have. But what an amazing book, the Bible.
It is amazing. Have you read any other any other major texts from any other major religion?
I've read excerpts of the Bhagavad Gita from Hinduism. I've read excerpts of the Quran from Islam, and what's crap. What's the Jewish version of the Old Testament? What is that?
The Tanaka?
Oh, the Torah.
The Torah?
Yeah, Torah, Tanaka. Yeah,
Oh yes, the Torah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think it's basically almost. I'm not gonna say word for word. It's almost a 1-to-1 with the King James Old Testament, the Torah. So,
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
so as far as that goes, I always found that interesting. That like I remember asking my dad at a very very young age, like Jesus was a Jew, right? So like why is the Jewish church still here? Like why are they still a thing when Jesus already came and now it's so like I always found it interesting that he believes so much of what the Jewish faith believes, and also Islam, the Islamic faith, is immensely parallel to our own beliefs.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to Abraham. So we have the three Abrahamic religions, where Abraham had some kids, Ishmael and Isaac.
Sure. Sounds right.
Crap.
I never claimed to be. I
I'm not a
never claimed to be
scriptorian.
good
I'm
at
not a
the taste.
scriptorian.
Yeah.
Oh, crap. I don't know. I'm a bad Mormon. So Abraham has two sons. The one son gets kicked out or something, but doesn't stop believing in God, and so he just kind of does his own thing, and that becomes Islam. That becomes the Islamic religion. And then the other son, doesn't get kicked out of Abraham's camp, and so he just kind of continues on Abraham's traditions, and that becomes Judaism. Jesus Christ comes, does his thing, does some really cool stuff, and then Christianity comes out of Judaism as well. So that's cool. Why was I talking about that, Jordan?
I think in general we're kind of bringing up it's just interesting to me, like the man-made, maybe, in a lot of aspects, hopefully spiritually inspired, but possibly sometimes not, works and meetings and all this stuff done in history amongst different religions that has brought us to where we are today.
Yep.
So these are all putting us where we are, where we have these major religions. And I mean, for the most part, my religion works for me. Otherwise, I would have made a different choice at some point.
I would hope so.
What's the nature of it? Yeah. But the experience has been far from perfect. Have you experienced any frustrations or less than complete satisfaction?
Never with the gospel. The gospel has only ever filled me with hope and for lack of a better word, light. What I mean by that is the teachings of the church, which primarily come from the scriptures, and we have other scriptures besides the Bible. Part of where the nickname Mormon comes from is from the book, the book called the Book of Mormon. We also have other officially canonized texts that have actually been written in modern times that we call the standard works. So most of our teachings come from those books and from church leadership who we believe continue to receive revelation from God. But all of that stuff, so there's a lot of stuff, right? There's a lot of teachings, there's a lot of talks and lectures and books and magazines, and there's just all of the stuff, right? All of the pure teachings are only good, and they only bring good to not only to me but everybody that I know. The pure word, the word is only good and uplifting.
But
yes, I have had tension with components of an organized religion on Earth.
That's an interesting way to say it.
It was very painful to get out. Yeah, I mean, some people suck. I'm just gonna say that. Like,
There you go.
People,
There we go.
yeah, I mean, the teachings, not even my church. Just like forget about my religion. Truth is awesome, and there's truth everywhere. I'm not the kind of person who's going to claim that my club is the only club that has all of the stuff. There's, for example, one thing that I was thinking about today while I was working at Desert Solace. We at times had clients who belonged to different churches, and so part of my job was to make sure everybody had adequate opportunities to worship how they wanted. And so I sat in a lot of Catholic masses, and I remember sitting next to one client in particular who also belonged to our church. We were participating. We were standing up, and we were like reading along and reciting all of the things in mass, which was great. And there's a part in the readings where you say, "We believe in one apostolic Catholic church," and I was reading along, and the client next to me stopped reciting the things during that little bit. So he cut out the words. I think he just cut out the word Catholic. So he was reading along. We believe in one true apostolic church, like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I mean, do I though? I believe in God. I say prayers.
Yeah. Yeah.
But all of these, hundreds of people sitting in this church believe in God. They call him God.
Yeah.
And they believe in Jesus Christ. So they believe all of those things, and they say prayers too. Does the God that I believe in ignore the prayers of these people who also are praying to him?
Right.
That did not make any sense to me, that God would ignore prayers from somebody who belonged to a different club. It was a really eye-opening experience to me. Obviously we believe different things or we'd just be the same church. But yeah, by and large, there's truth everywhere in all different organizations.
What a good statement.
And so that was actually kind of a springboard for me personally in my own spirituality.
I love that statement. That embodies so much of my mindset on the world right now, because there's also the cynical side of it, is there's lies everywhere.
Sure.
But you can lean on one direction or the other, and still come to the same.
That's a tricky statement. That is
you can lean one direction or what?
No, that there's lies everywhere. If you believe there's lies everywhere, you are probably a very angry, cynical, untrusting, depressed, nihilistic person.
Yeah, but taking all that away, taking all the emotion away. That's what I'm saying. You can lean one direction or the other, and your lifestyle is going to be very different. Mm-hmm. But logically, there are, in all areas of life, there is truth, and there are non-truths that are present.
Yeah. Yeah.
Taking away all as soon as you start to assume one direction or the other, then your lifestyle is going to change dramatically. Like you're saying, if you go into things believing that there are lies everywhere, and that is what you embody, your lifestyle is going to be a ton different than just somebody that believes that there are truths everywhere. Does that make sense? Yeah. I'm just talking logically.
Yeah. And I think I was caught up on lie, the word lie.
Yeah.
Because that word implies malevolence. People are out to get me. No. They're lying to me to get me or to trick me or something.
No.
And that's an interesting... That's a dark place to be. But yeah, noticing that there's stuff that isn't true.
Yes.
Naturally not true. I mean...
Well, because there's some truths, there are... I think better language is used in Desert Solace, and you might be able to tell me what those were, but there are some things that are fundamental truths, but there's different levels. So there are fundamental truths where just the statement is what it is, and it's on a spiritual basis. You know, it's just the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
then there are
it's
things that
simply
are
reality. It is.
Yeah.
It just is, and that's truth. Yes.
But then you also have truths that are based off of your life. Like something, there are things that can just resonate for you and can be like my truths. As far as like how I, there are things, even something as far as like racquetball, I like racquetball. Racquetball is a soothing experience. That is a true statement for me.
We're getting into some territory here.
But that's what I'm saying. There's different. That's that's why you can take such a different.
Because you said my truth. I hate that term.
This is a conversation without, because the emotion is what causes so many issues. When somebody puts.
No, I take intellectual beef with that statement.
You take intellectual.
You don't own truth. Nobody owns it.
Okay, well, I can word it differently. It resonates. That statement resonates with me. It does apply to me.
It's a perception, and it's true that you perceive that.
Yeah.
But to call that truth is undermining the definition of truth.
All right, let me back up like 5 steps. Okay. I'm going to go back to the statement.
Okay. I'm sorry. I've tried really hard to let go of this, and I just can't. I hate it when people say my truth.
That's fine.
It's so triggering.
I don't like it. I don't like it either. Racquetball is a soothing experience. Whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
That I will make that statement.
Yeah.
That depending on which way you lean, like one direction or the other on this thing, like it doesn't apply to some people. Some people do not enjoy racquetball.
Right.
That is true.
Yeah.
And you can be more serious. You can get more. There can be more serious things where, like, it does apply to some people and it doesn't apply to other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so on those areas, like, you can understand without it being necessarily a bad thing that, like, some people do some stuff and it's totally fine for them. But if you assume that all of that also is true for me, then that's not going to work out.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And the racquetball example is great for that. I mean, I don't really feel soothed when I play racquetball, but I like it.
Yeah. Because
I don't think racquetball soothes me.
If I then had the expectation, like, I know it works for me, mm-hmm. but if I had the expectation that it was a true statement, period, then I would probably be a very frustrating person to be around because I would be convinced that this is the answer to everything, and I would be trying to get everybody to play and enjoy racquetball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And for spiritual stuff or political stuff, like, just in general, like, you can take a stance mm-hmm. that works for you.
Sure.
And that's fine. And the issue is not necessarily that you, like, even if I think it's correct and I believe in it and I believe in it for whatever reasons, if I then start thinking about it as the truth, period, that starts to cause issues.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because obviously that's a big thing for me, apparently. Yeah, like the individual's perception is indistinguishable from reality itself. So in a sense,
yes,
like, this is the whole argument, and I have the argument with my wife all the time. Not all the time. But the whole my truth thing, like, it is true for you. Like, I get that. But I hate it when you say my truth because you don't own it.
That's fine.
Okay,
because
so
I can
we're uncovering that
because
this
on the
is more
same
of a
note,
personal thing than a universal thing. But
yeah, and I can agree that the statement "my truth" may become, because words have energy, and maybe that comes with energy that doesn't necessarily isn't getting across what we're actually meaning when we say something like that.
Right. But on the other hand, to advocate for quote unquote your side of that argument, we have to give credit to the individual's experience.
Yes,
we have to.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, that is the individual's experience is indistinguishable from reality,
Yeah.
making it
So,
true in a higher sense than truth.
yeah.
Am I saying that right?
The translation I take is like they're putting their perception to a higher level, even if it doesn't necessarily fill that space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I? Okay. Can I apply this to
I don't know.
something super serious?
Yes, please.
Okay, because we're diving head first in.
Good.
Okay, let's say I have a negative experience. Let's say I messed around with a girl, and
Wow.
negative experience
Which
came
is
from that.
which is immoral? Question: is that immoral?
I mean, sure, depending on the experience, but that's not what I'm trying to get at.
Okay.
The experience is negative. Maybe there's kids involved when we're still super young, like all this, all that. Like, it's a terrible thing. Poor experience. So, my truth. um, so, my experience is that is not a healthy thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
My kids grow up.
Mm-hmm.
I impress my experience upon them to the point that I never let them have like anybody over, super aggressive about not letting them. I can see your face, like you've connected what I'm getting at. And I put this umbrella thing over my kids based on my experience, whether or not I've actually shared what that experience is with them. I've now made a law in my household based on what I did 20 years ago. And the kids get to experience. What's your reaction to that? What was going through your head?
I know we only have 23 minutes, and that is not nearly enough time to unpack everything that just happened in that scenario.
But this is like
So
this is the big thing.
it's a very big
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
This
This
is a
is
huge
the
thing.
big thing, isn't it?
This is a
Yeah.
huge thing. I mean, yeah. This is like the shiz.
Because I would argue, so going back to like I was asking you like, have there been any negative experiences you've had with the organized religion?
Mm-hmm.
These type of things are probably one of my biggest resentments I have, and in that case, that situation was where somebody took a negative experience they personally had and put an umbrella on it.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that happens is people will take a concept or a doctrine or a commandment,
Mm-hmm.
and they will put an umbrella that is bigger than the commandment is.
Mm-hmm.
That creates a very similar situation.
Yeah.
And so like you can't things about not drinking or not doing this or not doing that, turning into these egregious life binding and controlling situations.
Right. Yeah, like some members of our church. So coffee's like a no-no for our church. And so some people, not all people, definitely not me, won't even drink caffeine. Like any caffeinated beverage they don't do it.
Yeah.
I need at least 1,000 milligrams of caffeine a day just to live.
Yeah.
That's a slight over-exaggeration, but it's not far from the truth. But yeah, like, I mean, holy crap, dude. So, holy crap. I mean, you just like described the crux of like modern day suffering. Like,
Yeah, sorry, I opened up Pandora's box. I knew,
like somebody had an experience, and so they're making that experience true for everybody else. And like this, like you said, this is the law now, and so now there's like generational trauma, generational pain, right? And so that gets ingrained into your kids, and so the kids don't even know what the heck is going on, but they have all this like foundational distrust of, in that scenario, any intimate relations, or like this foundational resentment for a certain kind of person. Like maybe your kids view you as some like horrible, monarchical, iron-fisted ruler, and so they have problems with authority now, and that's not healthy, and so they're gonna go and take that and screw up their kids based on that.
Yeah.
And so,
Every time it just shifts. Can I throw out a real life scenario
yes,
real quick? So the thing I'm seeing a lot, and high school was wrapping up. Me and all my buddies were, and friends were starting to get ready to move, get out of our parents' wing. And a lot of them are going to school due to the nature of our religion. Brigham Young University is usually much cheaper than a lot of other schools. So a lot of people are heading off to BYU. And the consistency where I saw kids leaving very protective umbrella households, whatever their parents' experience has been throughout their life, they put these restrictions on. The kid doesn't have any idea why these restrictions are on there. Their experience is 100% removed from the experience their parents had. Their parents have this traumatic event and knows why they shouldn't do this thing. All the kid is completely removed and doesn't have anything to do with that negative experience. It has everything to do with just the resentment towards the parent, and this just so happens to be the obstacle. So then they go off to school. They are no longer under the parents' wing, and I've heard people are imperfect, and so some of the church leaders that are up there at BYU, some of the bishops and everything, some of them are fantastic. Some of them are very imperfect. And I've heard stories of bishops just walking into apartments without knocking, and being more egregious academic overlords. And part of that might just be perception again, but taking emotion out of just somebody walking into a home without knocking, that's not appropriate.
No.
And so it just continues, or in general they don't have anybody over them now, so they go crazy.
Yeah.
And people think oh, BYU, it's just this picture perfect school. No,
it's extremely Freudian. It's fantastically Freudian.
Yeah, I moved up for a couple weeks a few years ago. I had a job promise up here, so I came up here for a couple weeks, very close to the college. I was actually staying with some buddies that were living in college dorms and everything. People, kids are going out of their way to do the worst stuff possible. Yeah. Not even to do with they don't care. They're just getting back mentally at somebody else.
Yep.
And this is their way of doing it. It's completely removed from whatever reasons that whoever had to stop them from doing it in the past.
It's classic repression. And
that is something that actively seeing so much these days.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, you just keep describing the same thing. This is the crux of all modern suffering, I think. Really, truly.
Yeah.
So we're running out of time, but there's so much I want to talk about right now. Okay, let's just boil
we can
it
talk
down.
about this can be a multiple episode
part 1, religion and spirituality, part 1.
Yes, maybe we leave spirituality completely for another episode.
Yeah, we really didn't touch on it, did we?
No, because we kind
of did.
Yeah. But we are going to get there, and I want that's going to be a huge part of it. Maybe we'll leave that to another episode, though.
All right. So you brought up the big thing, right?
Yeah.
And what I have an answer in my head. I'm not saying that's the only right answer, but it probably is. But what do you think could be an antidote for that?
An antidote to the experiences I was talking about?
Yeah. The parents have experiences. They're doing every single thing in their power and beyond to keep their children away from the negative experiences that they've had, to the detriment of everyone. How do you fix it?
I mean, I think I mentioned it in another episode of one of our podcasts before, but maybe not directly, but I think indirectly, and this is the crux of all problems, and I think the answer to most all problems is exposure. I think just experience, I was talking about and this may have been during kind of our, we spoke for a long time off mic about, politics stuff. And I think a lot of issues, whether they intend to or not, somebody that never leaves these days with the technology we have and the communication abilities we have, For somebody to never leave like the 100-mile radius around their city, but to have the impact that they do around the world, that is hugely problematic. Basically, they are having their experiences and they're seeing nothing else. They're seeing no other possibilities.
Right.
The experience they had is the only thing that could have happened. And so I think I think a lot of racism, if somebody pointed at me and said I am racist towards a particular set of people, I think going and just experiencing for a couple months like that culture, I feel like is the most natural way to get rid of or falsify whatever things I have in my head, if that makes sense.
So go spend time with the group of people that you're accused of hating.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah.
And I think in this case, like, let's say, I think, there are, like I said, exposure. So if we take the example that I gave with having sex with a girl at a really young age, and then having kids or whatever, having this negative experience, just the general exposure of like, yes, that happened, but I'm also just aware of times where that happened, and it, like, the couple worked it out, and like they stayed together, and it turned out to be a good experience, and they have a happy marriage after this long, and they have a connected family. And times where maybe they did wait and they got married and had sex at what would be an appropriate time to a lot of people, and their family fell apart.
Yeah.
Like seeing the different, like, just having a more comprehensive and experiencing different things and seeing like there's not only just the one outcome. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like it's impossible. It would the hyper focus on and the hyper confidence that like this is the way that it has to be would go away as soon as I started to see different outcomes.
Yeah. I mean, so taking a step back from the scenario, you're advocating for what I think you're advocating for us for.
I want to take that example.
Work under the assumption that you are in the wrong, and try to see all the ways that you're wrong. Is that what you're getting at? I
mean, it's not I don't know how to. There's a statement I'm trying to make, but I don't know the one sentence that I can give for it. I want to take that example out, and I want to put drinking in. Drinking is just a one word, like that. That's a little bit more simple. Drinking, depending on the faith, like, maybe looked down on, and you can look at the person who drank and became an alcoholic and died.
So let's talk about drinking in excess, maybe.
Yeah, drinking in excess.
Okay.
Well, no, drinking in general.
Okay.
Somebody has the perception that drinking is bad because of a negative experience they've had.
Okay.
So maybe their experience is they or a family member drank in excess, ruined the family, and died of alcoholism.
Okay.
Their perception is drinking alcohol is terrible.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
The reality is there's certainly a tendency there, and there's a reason that Alcoholics Anonymous is a massive organization. But the possibility, there's a spectrum. There are people that do all those things. There are also people that don't do those things and still ruin their family and die. And there are people that drink and have a fantastic life in all regards. Yep. Does that make sense?
I mean, that makes sense. How is that getting to the antidote of
When I think of that, for me, I feel like the shift that I would have is from a complete totalitarian perception on it, and like a complete 100% lockdown on being able to do this. I would still say, like, while my kids are in my house, I would I don't want them to drink. But if my adult child, if I found out that my adult child was drinking, it would change from complete this is going to be the result to hey, this is the experience I've had, but I'm experiencing fear because of that, and I just want you to know that. And that would be where I would be willing to end it.
I see. So are you So the solution to the crux of modern suffering would be to see that there's other ways than your way. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do. I would say in any of the scenarios that you presented, I think telling the truth would also work.
Yeah.
So in the example where the young couple has sex very early, and that raises a lot of complications in their life, talking with their kids and saying, "Hey, this is what happened. We're not. I mean, we don't love that we did this,
Yeah.
and these are the hard things that we had to deal with because of that.
Yeah.
And that's why we have all these rules around dating and socializing with people and needing to be in large groups or whatever, or all of my uncles are alcoholic, and so like that's why you can't drink, like I've seen it destroy bodies, like their health is terrible, their marriages are all terrible. This is hypothetical,
Yeah.
like that kind
Before
of stuff.
any of your uncles hear this.
I don't think any of them listen. Not talking about any of you, if you are listening. All of my uncles actually have really good lives right now,
Nice.
comparatively. That's irrelevant. Tell the truth. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that as well.
Yeah.
Because it's like a lot of the resentments is like when it's completely, the kid is having a completely different experience. It's
Yeah.
because they don't know why it's even being placed upon them in the first place.
Yeah, because like you said, they're disconnected from the original situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But explaining to them, or just sharing with them, letting that connection happen.
I mean, I don't. Yeah, I'm not going to tell anybody how to parent their kids, but just tell the truth, okay? My last statement on that is Alexander Solzhenitsyn wrote a book. Oh, do I have that name right? Alexander Solzhenitsyn wrote a book called The Gulag Archipelago. So he was a Soviet prisoner after World War II in the Soviet Union, in communist Russia. And I mean, it's a big book about all of the horrors of real totalitarianism and like what real the worst human corruption can look like.
Yeah.
And his closing statements of the whole book are basically that if one person tells the truth, all of this tyranny would fall apart if one person had started to tell the truth sooner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to bring that back to the religion conversation, we were talking about scriptures and how all of that is only good and hopeful and uplifting. That's the truth, and that's like the scriptures are more than my truth or your truth, the perception. It's more than literal truth. It's like the Bible specifically is the foundational text of Western civilization, Western culture, period. Yeah. Everything, like the way we measure truth, comes from the Bible. And so everything that we perceive as true is implicitly measured against what is in the Bible. Implicitly. I'm talking like atheists, agnostics, Satanists, like everything that we know to be true, we measure that against the words of the Bible culturally. And so like it's higher than truth. It's more than just true. It's truer than true.
Yeah.
And so like that is why the scriptures are so powerful and so helpful to so many people, is because they are so true. That's what I was trying to get at.
All right. That's all the time we have for today. What should the title of this part 1 be? Religion and Spirituality Part 1 Truth?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, maybe just truth.
Truth.
I don't know.
Brian, I put some thought into this thunks question for you.
Good. I'm
I
so
tried to
excited.
make it. I tried to make it topical. My challenge for you, and if we like this, maybe this can be how we kind of do it moving forward. I want the yes or no from you, and then at the beginning of the next episode, if you feel so strongly about it, you can explain yourself.
All right. I'm down.
And then that'll give the, if anybody in the audience has their opinions that they would like to make, then we can also discuss those at the same time.
Perfect.
So, question 488.
Mm.
Brian, can you always be sure you're not doing any harm?
No.
All right. There we go, folks.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Just remember, don't believe anything we say.